To join me in discussing this issue is a development strategy and a public affairs analyst, Kelechi Imo, joins us from Abia. Welcome on the program. Kelechi, can you hear us?
Good to see you again. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Good morning. Happy New Month to you.
Same here. Same here.
Just describe to us how it is where you are with all of these tension-laden stories making the rounds.
For us in Abia, we don't have any problem. There's no tension here. The only thing I perceive as tension is the price of petrol. I think as of this morning, the price of petrol in Omwa here is about 1,050 naira for a liter. Oops. So that's the tension that we are facing, and we are scared that with the way the economic situation is going, we may get up to 2,000 naira a liter. So I just pray that we don't get to that point. Yes.
You know, a friend of mine did a song many years ago. Originally, when he sang that song, he said, if petrol na 100 naira per liter. This was when petrol was 26 naira under Obasanjo. And at some point, he had to make the review of the song to if petrol now 1,000 naira per liter, it is well with my soul. Of course, he was actually thinking that was impossible. But this is us in 2024 living the impossibility that he felt was impossible. Perhaps he would need to review that song to maybe petrol at 10,000 naira per liter, talking about Frank Humor.
Yes, of course. You see, that's to tell you the kind of country we live in. We live in a country where what you cannot find in Nigeria does not exist.
Oh my!
So I think it's funny, and it's also unfortunate that some of the predictions that one had, that by now Nigeria should be somewhere in Nirvana, Nigeria should be competing with the world globally in terms of economy stability. But we are seeing the opposite right now. And I just sincerely pray and hope that the actors, the political class, the president or the presidency will take up the responsibility of trying to rejig this economy, because the economy is at the verge of collapse.
You just mentioned, I can't imagine. A few years ago, there was a group, after we had missed joining the G20, there was the Mint group, Malaysia, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. They seem to have, run away far ahead of us.
Of course. Of course. That's to tell you that we have not been progressing. That's to tell you we have not been intentional in our GDP, in our growth. Okay? That's what it simply means. Because, you see, what is happening in Nigeria today, if I should borrow the expression of the Labour Party presidential candidate in the last general election, he said it's a cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. And what we are seeing today is the failure of government living policies that we are supposed to be continuing. Because what happens in this country is that when a new government is in power, you see the government actually abandoning a policy that has worked because it wasn't initiated in his time. In fact, you remind me so much of what Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala said in the NBA conference. She was talking about having a social contract. And in that social, if you listen to her speech well, she provides solutions to this.
The speech, she said some politicians had weaponized insecurity. You mean that speech?
Of course, yes. The speech, she said that politicians have weaponized insecurity. She also said that why Nigeria is where it is today is because of this it wasn't in my administration syndrome. What did she mean by that? Okay, a classical example of a policy that was initiated under Goodluck Jonathan was this You Win, where it was this You Win program where a lot of young people keyed into it. It was simply based by merit. When you are qualified, you are given some grant. Why was that a policy abandoned? Why didn't Buhari continue the policy?
There was another policy, end power. He replaced it with end power. I don't know how powerful it ended up being.
Exactly. It wasn't powerful, my dear brother. It wasn't powerful. The point I'm trying to make is this. We should be consistent in policy making. And whenever a policy has worked for us, we should adopt that as a policy, that no matter the government that comes into power at a material time, it does not affect this particular policy that have been initiated and that have seen to have worked from changing. What you just see from administration to administration is policy decline. People trying to make policies that will favor them at that particular time, and when they are out of office, it doesn't exist anymore. So that's to tell you that our policies, from what we have seen so far, happens to favor a particular set of people, maybe the political class at the particular time. Yeah.
Okay, let's dive deep into the elephant in the room. Rumors making rounds that perhaps, looking at these failures that we've outlined, perhaps Mr. President is thinking of tinkering with his cabinet arrangement. And so, but of course, Mr. President himself is a member of the cabinet. He's a substantive member or minister for petroleum. And let's start with x-raying some of these ministries and seeing maybe what we could say would be some ministries that may need revisiting. So let's start with the Ministry of Petroleum. Can you give us some little assessment? Even though we know we've had these issues, I think the Ministry of Petroleum is in the forefront of some of the challenges that we are facing and we're talking about. But let's be fair. Given the environment in which this administration came in with massive borrowing and the cost of paying our debts was fast overshadowing government's ability to do anything. But can you give us some general assessment of what you think the Ministry of Petroleum has looked like in the past 1 year?
If you're to be very honest and candid with you, whether that office exists, I don't know. Because there can't be a Ministry of Petroleum and I'm buying PMS for 1,050 naira in Omaha this morning. Well, it doesn't make sense that a country as rich as Nigeria, that they told us that this country has oil, which we have seen, can't afford to buy petrol for as low as 20 naira. I'm not an economist, I'm not an engineer, but I speak like a common man in the street, and I will tell you that that office should be able to do its regulations properly. We have refineries in this country. We will have a new one in this country, and yet the refinery is struggling to operate. Okay? You have a Ministry of Petroleum that operates on its own, and from what we see in the media, it does appear NNPC acts on its own. It acts on its separate entity. There is no checks and balances. Nobody seems to know what is happening in this other place. Why, on a normal day, the Ministry of Petroleum should do a kind of oversight in what happens in the NNPC. Now, if you ask me, petroleum is sold as at this morning in Umuahia 1,050 naira. That is a disadvantage to the ordinary citizen. And so, if you tell me to give my honest opinion about the Ministry of Petroleum, they have failed. It's as simple as that. Because they can only succeed if we can go to any filling station and buy petrol at an affordable rate that we all will be able to enjoy. That's the economy will boom. But
Kelechi, when you look at what the government said just a week ago, coming out with the figures of GDP growth of 3.19%, you would see that in that their scale, the petroleum sector actually did, in their estimations, well. Wouldn't you consider the growth in the oil sector perhaps as something to celebrate?
You see, there's this joke we often make statistics don't work. It doesn't make any sense to the common man until he provides food on the table. You see, all those charts will not make sense to somebody like Kelechi until Kelechi can be able to afford petrol without having to press his calculator. So if the oil sector has done well, the question you should ask, why is the refineries that's supposed to be working not working all this long? What we've been hearing is that the refineries will work by so and so time. In fact, I even heard that this government is trying to give it to private individuals.
Yeah, that's the latest story.
I remember Chief Olusegun Obasanjo granted an interview with some members of the National Assembly, and he made mention of that when he was president. He brought this up. He wanted some of the Kaduna refinery, Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery to work. So he called, I think, Shell or so. There were companies he mentioned.
Yeah, it was Shell.
Take over the running of these oil companies, and they told him that they were not going to do that. It was impossible. Now, after the whole narration, he was shocked that the reason why those refineries are not working is because of vested interest, if I should use that word. The reason why the refineries are not working is because there are strong men in the system who have ensured that those refineries will not work, because it's more profitable to import PMS than to produce one. So there's a lot of, my brother, the system needs an overhauling. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. I believe that President Tinubu, being one of the most, if not the most experienced politician to be president of the country at this time, will have the political power to do the right thing. And there is a reason why he is president at this particular point in time, because come on, what does he really want? He has seen it all. In terms of money, he has been everything. He has been a governor, he has been a senator, now he's a president, and he has seen it all. So I think that the position he occupied today is to be of service on whatever policies, whatever actions that he has to take to make the country working for us all, not just for people not just like him, the elite, but some of us who are the common people in the streets, for the economy to work for every one of us. So to answer your question directly, those statistics, those charts don't make any sense.
Okay, Kelechi, before you get into another sector and do another X-ray, would you think it smart? I think it was Buhari that came up with, in this latest instance, I think it was Buhari that came up with making himself Minister of Petroleum, can I remember if Obasanjo did it? I can't remember exactly. But would you think it would be a better thing if President Tinubu just says, you know what, let me get someone else to manage this, the person who has more energy, more strength, more ability, and who's more dexterous to run the Ministry of Petroleum, and see if the person can, within a time frame, fix these issues that you've raised?
When President Buhari came into power, he came into government with the mindset that he was this very strict individual, this no-nonsense kind of person. And then he, after getting into power, he made himself Minister for Petroleum. I think Temipre Silva was Minister for State for Petroleum. After he became all this, what was the result? What was the result and the effect of being the Minister for Petroleum? Nothing. Our refineries still need not work. Our petrol was still not cheap. Jonathan, in fact, if you listen to Okonjo-Iweala's speech on the NBA, he said the last time Nigerians, I'm paraphrasing, the last time Nigerians experienced anything real growth was in 2015. And that was at the exit of Goodluck Jonathan's administration. So between then and now, it's been zero. So it doesn't matter who is in charge. What matters is the type of policies that you make that will actually bring out positive results to that. So Tinubu decided to become Minister of Petroleum will not make any real sense until Nigerians start seeing results. So to answer your question, yes, it doesn't matter. Bring in an expert and give that expert the necessary tools and the freedom the person needs to actually work. You see this, like this country works. One thing I know is that if this country wants to work, it will work. It's just about getting your priorities right, setting your priorities right, and doing the right things. Yeah.
Minister for Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy, Bursun Tijani. We have Minister of State Environment and Ecological Management, Ishak Salako. We have Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun. At least Wale Edun, some would say, has put in some work, particularly looking at the very, what's the word I could use now? Devastated state of the economy he came to inherit, particularly with how the government has actually used mostly monetary policy to try to manage the economy as it is. But when you look at some other ministries, like the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, of course, they come out and he read, like recently he's in China, just sent us that news that they will invest $800 million US in transmission lines and distribution, but power has failed. We've had, this year alone, I can't count how many times we've had a national grid collapse. And the average industrialist, the average manufacturer, again, when you look at that statistic, you see that manufacturing really showed, how will I put it, lethargy, because it would have grown, if it took 22%, but it would have been a lot higher and would have employed more people, what experts say. But because of power, we are seeing this sector of the economy practically paused. Do you think we should, President Tinubu should take a look at Minister for Power and see how we could maybe replace him with someone else?
Well, I know that a lot of people have complained about the power situation in this country. And I believe that power is one of the most, if not the most important economic tool that a country needs to use to revive its economy. Okay, the Minister of Power, to be honest, I'm not experiencing power. Okay, so, and I begin to ask myself, why is he there? You see, the way we are currently, telling us that you're investing, if you like, invest 1 billion or 1 trillion US dollars. To Nigerians, we've heard all this in the time past. It's not about getting these fundings. It's about telling yourself the truth that you are actually going to invest the whole money in that sector. What happened? You see, there's a problem of trust. We Nigerians don't trust our leaders. Okay? This is why even if our leaders say, we are going to do this, we battle those thoughts because we know that this is not the first time we are hearing this. So what are you going to do differently that will make us believe you? This is why it is for you, it is good for the presidency or the president to constantly communicate with the people. Remember that the circumstances that led to the current president being president is still under question by a lot of Nigerians. There's no doubt about that. Now, it is left for them to convince Nigerians that we really care. And the only way to convince Nigerians that you really do care is by when you say you are bringing in $100 million into the to employ it into the power sector. Ensure that you are actually employing it into the power sector. Because what we've had over the years is that we hear some of these monies being said, okay, we are going to invest so and so million dollars into this particular sector. And yet, one administration after the administration, you don't see the results. You don't see the effect of this investment. So borrowing is not the problem. It's the investment. What are you investing in? Are you actually investing these monies into this economy? Because if we're actually doing the right things, then come on, we can't get the embarrassment of our presidential aircraft being seized. We can't hear some of those things. It's embarrassing. So if the Minister for Power is I can hear you.
Presidential aircraft issue and allied matters soon. But before we get there, you have the Minister of State's Petroleum Resources, that Henneken Lokbobri. You also have the Minister of Gas Resources, Minister of State for Gas Resources, Ekperekpekpo. And where you are, the power plant there just suffered an issue with lack of very interrupted gas supply. Over here in Uyo, just a couple of weeks ago, we experienced something similar, where for 10 days we were out of power because at first we thought it was a transmission line issue, but then we later found out when the spokesperson for the Bong power plant came out to say that they had issues with gas supply. When you hear the stories of Nigeria now exports gas to China, to Japan, and the likes, and are you happy? Does that show that we are growing, particularly when you have situations with our power plants being starved of gas?
No, it doesn't make me happy. It only makes us look like, okay, we are good outside than inside. And I think it's for the elites, for those of them who are in power, it's more profitable to do some of these things outside than to actually keep the common man. Now, this is where. But
some of them would argue that when we don't embark on these trades, for instance, we can't get the dollar that we need with other trade, things that we need to import.
It is about setting your priorities right. Nobody is going to fix your country. No outsider is going to fix your country other than ourselves. We are the ones who are going to fix this country. When we fix this country, those of them who are our brothers outside will literally come to us begging to partner with us in business. We need to fix our house out inside. It's only when we fix our house inside that we now have the advantage of calling or trying to do business with other people, and we have a strong argument to make. So this whole idea of supplying gas outside the country and we don't having gas, it doesn't make sense to me. That is why I'm using this opportunity to call a private use this opportunity to call on him to actually think most of these things has to do with political will. Listen, I think I've been around people in government. Somebody can be a minister and has the goodwill and has has the boldness to actually make these policies. Now, it is incumbent on those of them who are charged with the responsibility of carrying out these policies, these assignments, to do their job. So if this chief executive, the CEO, the executive is innocent, he has the power to actually hire and fire any individual who wants to be a stumbling block.
But to their credit, of course, we've also seen the launch, the inauguration of the 7th stream of the LNG, and that promises to actually revolutionize the gas sector. Again, when we're looking at Mr. President pivoting from petrol-driven vehicles to compressed natural gas-driven vehicles, it seems as if this seemed to be in the offing. My only challenge, of course, with this policy was perhaps this is what they would have done first before even tempering with the issue of fuel subsidy removal. But let's run to another sector, defense, security. Every day in the news, we keep hearing one security-related incident or story or the other. And you have a Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, and we have a Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale. Only recently, we heard him give the marching orders to the service chiefs to relocate to Sokoto State, where a report came out that well over 160 billion naira have been paid to bandits, either as levies or all kinds of payment done to secure release of people who have been kidnapped. Where do you rank and rate these two ministers and the Ministry of Defense?
It's sad. It's sad. Really, it's sad. When I heard you mention the figures you mentioned on bandits, and you ask yourself, How did we get here? The question to ask is, what is the antecedents of Matawale? Well, that he was a former governor. What is his antecedents? Does he have the technical skills to handle that office? That's the question you ask yourself. Now, giving these marching orders to service chiefs to relocate to Sokoto, or Sokoto as they call it, we have heard this in the past. What is this one going to do differently? Nigerians are begging for results. There is hardly any part of the country that is not experiencing one kind of kidnapping or the other. I hear a few weeks ago that some students were traveling somewhere around the Benue-Kogi corridor, something like that, and they were kidnapped. Okay, I think they have also been released.
Yeah.
For how long do we continue to experience this? This is why we need to set our priorities right. The country is unfortunately very divided, and the economy biting is even leading to more and more young people going into all manner of illicit activities, which includes banditry. So it's not about instructing the military to go and tackle these problems. It's about addressing the fundamentals. And what are these fundamentals? There is poverty in the land. There is high, and what caused this poverty? We don't have good education system. Even if we have, we don't have jobs. Most of young school leavers are not employable. What are you doing to address this? This is why I must use this opportunity to actually salute the Minister for Digital Communication and Digital Economy. The minister. There's this program. In fact, I got to know about
Tijani.
Tijani. He's doing a lot in equipping young Nigerians with digital skills that can help them grow. Because, of course, you know that the world we live now is almost digital. Everything is digital in this world. 3MTT, so a program like that, where his priority is to equip young Nigerians. Now, imagine most Nigerians, 75% of Nigerians is keen into that program. After that program, you become very employable, that you can be at the comfort of your home and do works even abroad. When people are busy, the point is, when people are busy with something very reasonable, and those things you are doing are paying your bills, you won't have time to remember there is something called kidnapping. You won't have time to remember there is something called banditry. So we need to address the fundamentals. Yes, it's good for the military and the service chiefs to go into those states and as much as they can reduce the tension. However, this is only a symptom, because if you just address the symptom of the disease or the problem without addressing the root of that problem, you are only scratching the surface and practically waste of resources and money and time. So I think we should do the fundamentals. Let us address the key issues of unemployment, address the key issues of education, address the key issues of health. If you go to the hospitals, okay, a lot of Nigerians cannot find, don't have access to NHIS, don't have access to health care. Even if they have, it's limited, because a number of us are not working, okay, there are a lot of conditions. What is this? What is the healthcare scheme that has been provided for the population that are not working? Because if you go to the hospitals, you see a lot of people who are still in the hospital because they are unable to pay their bills. And philanthropists cannot do the problem of government, cannot solve the problem of government. So these are the key issues that I think that the federal government needs to look into in order to address insecurity. Before
I let we move from insecurity and see what we should maybe a few other sectors that we could look at. We've had rounds where some leaders in the north are questioning the president's choices of security appointments. We've had some, including the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, lending his voice, amongst others, including the Northern Elders Forums and quite a number of others, to say that Mr. President seems to be biased. But we also saw Shekarau, former governor, coming out to say, well, this has happened before. We've seen where Buhari, in his time, loaded the security apparatus with Northerners as the head. But in this back and forth, what can we pick apart as perhaps the direction in which Mr. President should head with regards to his appointment of key security leaders?
One thing that makes you a good leader is the ability to listen. And not just listening, finding reasons with the advices that you are being given. This is also the reason why it's good to leave good precedents. Okay, Mr. President is only doing this because somebody has already led the presidents. Okay, we saw. I've never seen a president as nepotistic as former President Buhari. All right. Now, these things are happening because of what happened, transpired during his administration. So, is that the method? Is that the system that this president should adopt? No. You only look for people who are capable. There's something we call federal character in this country. All right? Picking individuals from every region, from every geopolitical zone in this country. I'm sure there is no zone in this country that you will not find capable persons to handle a particular assignment. Now, if insecurity is from Bora, one thing I believe so strongly is that the issue of security is a collective effort. It's not a one-man's business. I think, honestly, that the president should hearken to the voice of wisdom and do what is proper, so long as competence is what is the landmark, is what is the basis of whatever appointments he's making.
When you look at quite the minister for, say, the Minister for Labor and Employment in Kiru and Minister for Agriculture, a lot of some of these other ministers, their success in a way depends on other ministries working. Say, for instance, security. So, for instance, in labor, you notice that it's because the economy is not doing very well. That's why you had those labor issues. And then for agriculture is not doing very well. Again, a major reason being the insecurity. So when you take a look at some of these other ministries, what should we do how do I put this? Is there a way to judge them and their performance even in the midst of those contributing factors that are beyond their control?
I believe that each and every one of them have their key performance indicators, KPIs, all right? Now, judge them based on their KPIs. We know that insecurity is a major factor. However, there are some that you don't need, like if you tell me that the reason why we've not done a lot in terms of food production in the north is because of the insecurity in the north, I will agree. However, what have we done to quell this situation, and what other alternatives have we provided that we won't allow, because there is insecurity in the north, not have food in the country? We won't, because that our refineries are not working, not have petrol in the country. What did our leaders in the time past do differently that worked for them that we are not doing right now? Or what did they do wrongly that we can improve on to actually get it right? This is why it is good to negotiate. It is good to dialogue. It is good to discuss with the people. I know that many a times the president has been called on to speak to his people. Speaking to the people does not necessarily mean doing all those broadcasts, which, of course, a lot of people are also angry that most of the broadcasts are recorded. It means interacting with the people through journalists. We used to have President Obasanjo come and grant interviews with journalists, and they were asking him all manner of questions. In fact, I can remember Jonathan, because of the questions that they were asking him, he was under pressure that he made a statement, said if the country loses, I've forgotten the particular figure he mentioned, he said America will know. If we lose this money,
okay, that
America will know.
that was when then leader of CBN, Sanusi, had alleged
Sanusi
that
Lamido,
about
yes.
$14 billion had been frightened away and not been reported or sent to the CBN coffers from oil earnings, which ultimately turned out to be one of those political things.
Of course. So my point is this. If the people are being carried along, if we are hearing our president, and our president is telling us the challenges he's facing, okay, good individuals, countrymen, citizens will come and say, okay, this is the challenge you're facing. Let's do it A, B, C, D, and E. If we do it this way, we'll get this result. It's a matter of saying that you really want to serve. When a leader wants to serve, you will see it. You see when the leader is making efforts, you will also see it. I'm not saying that President Tinubu is not making an effort. Like in the Ministry of Digital Economy, Tijani, he's doing well. Interior, the guy in charge of, yes, I think it's Interior, he's also doing well in making sure, if not for any other thing, the problem of getting your international passports and all those things has ended. He's doing so well. Who other minister do I recommend right now?
What about the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, particularly with regards to his performance in the Federal Capital Territory? I think some would say he's been one of those performing ministers.
Yes, to be fair to Nyesom Wike, with all his problems, he has been performing. You know, one thing you cannot take away from him is that he has this, if you call him Mr. Project, okay, you are not wrong. He has the willpower to actually get things done, okay? I am not judging him based on the processes, because I know that there's a lot of problems between him and the senator representing FCT, okay? I'm not talking about the process, but in terms of infrastructure, I think he's doing well, which is not surprising because he's actually replicating the energy he put in when he was governor of Rivers State into being minister for FCT. So if that is part of the indicators, I think he's well.
Okay, then it's still staying on Nyesom Wike. Over the weekend, while they were putting together that Congress, PDP Rivers State, which Fubara, of course, didn't attend, Wike took a swipe at some governors. Actually, I think he made mention of the Bauchi State governor, and he threatened that any governor who wants to meddle in Rivers politics, he would pay them in kind, and that he would, he said he was playing with fire and will get burnt.
He said he will put fire in their state. That was the language.
I was trying to be a little bit, but that was his words exactly. That was his words exactly. How can we interpret it? What did he really mean by that?
You see, if you're, it's most unfortunate that it's coming from an important minister as that of the minister of the FCT. President Tinubu is currently in China, and from the feelers we got, he's trying to woo investors. Now, here is your FCT minister. In fact, it's quite interesting. The other day, it's just up to a week, Madam Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, DGWTO, made mention of the fact that we should not, what's the word now? We should not, insecurity should not be, I'm trying to use the exact word.
Weaponized
insecurity, yeah. Okay? Now, a week after, just a week after, we are hearing a sitting minister, a former governor, telling colleagues that he will put fire in his state. He didn't just end there. He went ahead to say that they will not be able to do governance. Now, if you are an investor, if you're an investor, and my president is in your country, trying to convince you how Nigeria has the potentials, give you an enabling environment, and you turn on the TV when you are just about to reach an agreement with your president, you turn on the television and see a former governor, powerful governor of a powerful state like
who ultimately left that meeting and attended, joined the president to head for China, because while in that place he said, look, I'm sorry, I can't take, thank you for allowing me to speak early. I need to join the president on his trip to China. So he was actually part of that delegation.
Beautiful. So isn't that would that counterproductive? You are going to put fire in a state because of politics. You leave the good works of governance to face politics by going the extra mile. We need to see, in a developed society, Barrister Wike should be called by the DSS to please explain what he means by putting fire in their states, and they will not be able to govern.
I would think that that is what the governor of Bauchi State should say. Up till now, we are yet to receive, at least I'm yet to see his official response from what Wike said. But I would think that that is what the good people of Bauchi State, led by their governor, should perhaps try to find out from the FCT minister.
This is why we need to be intentional with leadership. This is why we need to be intentional in the type of people who get into elective offices. Okay, the temperament of a leader is very important. The temperament of a leader is very important. A leader is someone who does not just speak because he has to speak. Who does not just speak because everybody is speaking, but he has to speak. He speaks because he has to speak. Okay, making very unfortunate statements like putting fire in your state should not come from any leader, especially judging from how the country is currently.
But remember, he talked about those who are meddling in Rivers politics. So if one, for instance, is meddling,
how is meddling with Rivers politics? If what they call meddling in Rivers politics have to do with a retaliation of putting fire in the state, why not you deal with whoever that you feel is making you uncomfortable? That's your personal problem, and not dragging a whole state into your problem. The point I'm trying to make is leaders need to be mindful of what they say, because their actions and inactions have a way of influencing how a people react, influencing the economy. Remember, when he was governor of Rivers State, he came out in a live broadcast and said he's instructing, that was during the NSAS protest, that he's instructing young people should sit back in their house. Young people got angry and they stood up and they actually went to the street. In fact, they started singing a song, Wike with the Como, Wike with the Como. So those things would have been properly managed if he didn't have to say that. My point is, as a leader, you just have to be cautious of what you say. And especially if you want this current president to work, you're a minister. And the top priority of this government is to see that the government works. So you have to be careful of what you say in public. That's my point.
So, but taking a look at this, what would the likes of, say, Fubara, he's actually come out to accuse Fubara of planning to jump ship from PDP, and but then again, looking at the internal bickering among PDP leaders, PDP had not really done well in trying to resolve the issue between Wike and Fubara. So, looking at it from that prism, what do you think that Fubara should do, and what do you think that PDP should do? Because this is a PDP member talking about the PDP governor of another state meddling in his own state and vowing to retaliate against that other PDP governor's state.
There is this proverb that is said, when a man decides to swallow the ball of a yam, let him not blame his enemies when he's being choked up. What does that mean? Fubara?
Things fall apart.
Fubara knows his boss. All right? By the time he had this agreement with the boss and his boss helped him to become governor, Fubara was well informed of the kind of challenges he was going to face. However, if you have followed Rivers State politics in a while, you will discover that this is the first time an incumbent is actually an incumbent governor is being fought in this manner. All right.
But you would also remember that when Wike was governor, he also had issues with Amechi, and then talked about federal might.
And he became that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Fubara should take charge of the state. He is the governor and the chief security officer of the land. Wike has had his time as governor and had an uninterrupted, successful 8 years. Okay? Fubara should also be allowed to have his uninterrupted, depending on him, the number of years he should have. And if there are problems that he is facing as a leader, based on whatever, we've had a lot of stories in this country, his own will not be any different. He should do the right thing. And what is the right thing? By taking charge of the state, which I think, in my personal opinion, he's already doing. Fubara is not really the talking type. Okay? So, I believe that there's something we say in Igbo, Ogbuege with a plan. Somebody who takes his time has his plan. So, I believe that Fubara is really on top of the situation because his major priority should be solving the problem of Rivers State, solving the problem to which he was elected for. His top priority is to secure lives and property of Rivers indigents and Rivers residents. So, whatever political terrain that they are trying to drag him into, I see it as a distraction. He should face governance, and when it's time for politics, he should face politics.
Quickly, we have barely 2 minutes to be out of here. Some have said, look, it's not about reshuffling the ministers. It's more systemic. You're looking at something that has to do some structural adjustment. That's what Tanko, the Labour Party spokesperson, said. What's your take on that, quickly?
Structural adjustment. Well, I quite agree with you. There are quite a number of ministers. However, it's about bringing incompetent people to handle the job. I'm not saying that they are not incompetent. Just perhaps they may not be in the right offices at this time. Maybe there should be a kind of cabinet reshufflement, which I quite agree. That you observe that under President Obasanjo, if you look at the cream of ministers he had at his time, you discover that these were people who were really professionals in their area. Okay? So I believe that if President Tinubu should adopt that system, Nigeria will be a better place.
Yeah, I was actually saying that, for instance, the Patriot Group leader, Emeka, former Commonwealth.
Enyoko.
Yeah, Enyoko. He came out to say that even if an angel were to lead some of these ministries, some of the country, they would fail. So people have been saying that, look, this is not just about having a cabinet reshuffle, bringing this person and replacing this person. We need a more systemic approach, perhaps adopting the Oransaye report or making some constitutional changes. Which one do you think is something we could do right now and see if we could have change? 30 seconds.
Oransaye report.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Let's adopt it holistically. Let's take it. Let's stop this idea of picking and choosing. All right. if we all agree that its Oransan report is the best, let's adopt it. If we say it is pre-2014 confab report, we should adopt it. However, I've heard so much about Terrorisim and I've read a bit of it. I think Oransan report is what we need at this particular time, because it happens to merge a lot of ministries and trying to help the system in terms of economic development. So if we want to adopt that, we should go ahead and do that. Yeah. But the ball, the what do you call it now? The buck stops on the table of the
president.
Yeah.
Kelechi Moore, a development strategist and a public affairs analyst, joined us from Umuahia. Kelechi, thank you for your thoughts and your contributions. Of course, perhaps again we'll have you on the program to do justice some of these issues that are facing the country. Kelechi, thank you for joining us again.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, that's how far we can go today on Political Spectrum. We keep an eye on some other issues. Of course, Mr. President is in China trying to cut some deals that will be beneficial to Nigeria. We hope, and we hope we'll pray him a safe trip, and on his return we'll bring some good news. We'll be following that up, and perhaps during the week we'll have some review of his trip and the outcome. But for today, I will take a pause here. We do hope that you can stay behind and enjoy the rest of our programming. But from Political Spectrum, it's goodbye, and you enjoy the rest of your day.